Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, dear students, Faculty of Commerce English section. Today we will have main points about the definition of economics, the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics, the early history and the classical school, Keynesian and Monetarism, later developments, Great Depression and economic questions, factors of production, and how to make a rational choice, the difference between positive statements and normative statements. First, we will have the difference between the economic theory and the economic analysis, and our subject has main focus on economic analysis because in economic analysis we will have positive statements. There is some disagreement among economists on what should we do, and how we can take good economic decisions, and it depends on personal opinions and expectations. So in economic analysis, we will have positive statements. There is disagreement among economists, focusing on what it should be, personal opinions, and expectation. But in economic theory, we have normative statements. There is no disagreement among economists, focusing on what an object is really is and the facts. So we will talk about the economic theory and normative statements. Normative statements, it's like economic laws. Like the demand law, there is a negative relationship between quantity demanded and the price. Supply law, there is a positive relationship between quantity supplied and the price. All of these are economic theory. There is no disagreement among economists. If there are many economists, they have no disagreement on the statement of demand law or supply law, equilibrium, and all of these concepts. So it's about facts. But when we talk about economic analysis and positive statements, economic analysis and positive statements, we focus on positive statements. And positive statements, it's like if we raise interest rate, could we face unemployment? Could we face inflation? We have economic decisions. What should we do? All of these depends on personal opinions and expectation, and there is disagreement among economists. Some economists will say we should have free market. Some economists we say we should have government intervention in the market. So we have economic analysis, and we will have interesting topic in this part. So when we have distinction between economic theory and economic analysis, we know the main differences between the two concepts. Second, we have definition of economics, and we say in the law of demand, it's not disputed. So there is agreement between economists, even not economists. There is agreement between all of the people on this concept. There is inverse relationship between the quantity demanded and the price imposed, and this is the law of demand. Other elements specified remain constant. Other elements, like we take before, like income, taste, pollution, and other factors. At the macro level, we have the objective factors and personal factors and disposable income that affect consumption. So consumption, it depends on objective factors, personal factors, and disposable income. But the determinants of national income are consumption investment, government investment, marginal propensity to consume is the idea of multiplier. All of this has no disagreement among economists. So all of that is economic theory, not economic analysis. So we know the difference between economic theory and economic analysis. In analytical economics, we focus on economic policies, on economic analysis. Is the subsidy policy agreed upon all economists? So should we subsidize some industries? Should we give benefits for unemployment? Should we Should we should we face inflation or should we raise interest rate? All of these are based on opinions and based on agreement of some economists. Some economists might disagree with these statements. So whether they are advocates of capitalism or socialism, some will be agreed with subsidy policy. And also at the level of policies proposed by the government at the level of monetary policy and physical policy. We have monetary policy is سياسة نقدية. Physical policy is سياسة مالية such as interest rate policy, exchange rate policy. There is no agreement on those policies among economists of different intellectual affiliations. So we have disagreements in these policies. Should we focus on monetary policy or physical policy? Should we have interest rate policy of raising interest rate or should we decrease interest rate? Should we have free float exchange rate or not? All of these policies are the main case study of analytical economics. Another example of price liberalization policies in strategic sectors such as electricity and water. So should we have a free market for electricity and water, or should we have some subsidy for these two goods or services because they are very important to people? Health and education are all policies on which there is disagreement among economists. So even in health and education, we have some disagreement among economists. Should we have private education or should we have government education or should we have both? All of these are the main focus of analytical economics. A fundamental fact dominates our life. We want more than we can get. Our inability to get everything we want is called scarcity. So, economics is the science of scarcity. If there is scarcity in any goods or services, so we have economics. So, scarcity is universal, it converts all living things even it's a rich country or poor country, even it's developed country or underdeveloped country or development countries, all of these countries or all of living things have the concept of scarcity. This why we study economics, so we can control and manage our resources to meet our needs. So economics is the social science that studies the choices that individual, businesses, governments, and the entire societies make as they cope with scarcity and incentives that influence and reconcile these choices. So economics is the science of scarcity. It depends on social science and studies the choices that individual, business, and the government, any living things make choices that they cope with scarcity and incentives that influence and reconcile those choices. The subject has two microeconomics and macroeconomics. So we have two parts, microeconomics and macroeconomics, and we have quick comparison between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is a study of the choices that individuals and the businesses make and the way these choices interact in markets and the influence of government. So this is microeconomics. Microeconomics study consumer surplus, producer surplus, equilibrium in market, how individuals interact to price signals. All of this is microeconomics. But macroeconomics is a study of behavior of national or regional economy as a whole. It's considered with understanding economy-wide events such as the total amount of goods and services produced, the level of unemployment, and the general behavior of prices. All of these are the main focus for macroeconomics. So if we have like a mountain, a mountain from very far, it's macroeconomics scope. When we get close to this mountain, as we get closer, we can focus on some parts of this mountain. It's microeconomics. So we have microeconomics scope and macroeconomics scope. Then we will talk about the classical and early history schools in economics. Even in economics, we have different school and different thinkers and different, whether it's depends on capitalism or socialism or on the mixed economy. It's has a concept, and these schools have some issues, and the more we get advanced in these schools, they solve problems and have faced many challenges in their policies. So the classical school of economics thought, which derived its main principles from Scottish economist Adam Smith's theory of self-regulating market, was the dominant philosophy. So self-regulating markets or invisible hand or laissez-faire, it's the Adam Smith theory of free markets. Accordingly, such economists believed that economy-wide events such as rising unemployment and recessions are like natural phenomena and cannot be avoided. If left undisturbed, market forces would eventually correct such problems. Moreover, any intervention by the government in the operation of free markets would be ineffective at best and destructive at worst. So Adam Smith believed that we should have schools, or we should have free market for demand and supply. Market can solve its problems. We have invisible hand, we have laissez-faire concept, and all of these concepts are the dominant philosophy. So economy can solve its problems. Any intervention in the economy can be ineffective and also destructive at worst. So if we have government intervention in any market, as Adam Smith said, we can have ineffective and we have destructive effects at worst. Then we take the Keynesian school and the classical view of macroeconomics, which was popularized in the 19th century. Keynesian began after the Great Depression in the United States in 1929 and soon spread to the rest of industrialized Western world. The theoretical foundations for the change were laid in 1935 to 1936. The British economist John Maynard Keynes. So John Maynard Keynes is the author of the most important book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, which advocates the Keynesian way, and he has argued most of the adverse effects of the Great Depression could have been avoided if government acted to counter the depression by boosting spending through fiscal policy. So Keynesian believes that government should intervene in the market by fiscal policy to solve the problems of Great Depression that occurred in 1929. Keynesians thus ushered in a new era of macroeconomics, thought that viewed the economy as something that the government should actively manage. So Keynesian believed in government intervention. Government must take its role in intervention and it must help the economy to recover. And there are many economists like Samson, Franco, and James Tobin, Robert Solow, and many others adopted and expand upon Keynesian ideas, and the result, Keynesian School of Economics was born. So, of all of these works for all of these scientists, we have the Keynesian School. Then we speak about Monetarism. And Monetarism in 1950 specific, we have first challenge to Keynesian school. We have influential University of Chicago, Milton Friedman, and he is the most effective person in this school. Friedman proposed an alternative explanation of the Great Depression. So all of these schools have explanation for Great Depression and how to avoid it, on how to recover after this Great Depression. He focused on the monetarism policy and monetary policy by the Federal Reserve System, the central bank of the United States. If the Federal Reserve had started to increase the money supply instead of doing the opposite, the recession could have been effectively tamed before it go out of control. So he has a solution for the Great Depression by increasing the money supply. Over time, Friedman's ideas were refined and came to be known as monetarism, in contrast with the Keynesian strategy of boosting demand through physical policy and increasing demand. Monetarism focus on supply side and how to increase money supply to fight recession. So the government should avoid intervening in free market and the rest of the economy according to the monetarism. And the monetary policy should act by increasing money supply by the federal system. Later developments, a second challenge to the Keynesian school arose in the 1970s when the American economist Robert Lucas laid the foundation of what came to be known as New Classical School of Thought Economics. Lucas Key introduced the rational expectation hypothesis. And the rational expectation hypothesis, it depends on the individual which has the rational choices and how to make a rational choice, as opposite to the ideas in earlier Keynesian and Monetarism models that viewed the individual decisions maker in the economy as short-sighted and backward-looking. Lucas argued that decision makers, insofar as they are rational, don't base their decisions solely on current and past data. They also form expectation about the future on the basis of very vast array of information available of them. So we should have information about current and past data and the current data for the future and for making good future decisions. The fact implies that a change in monetary policy, if it has been predicted by rational agents, will have no effect on real variables such as output and the unemployment rate because the agents will have acted upon the implications of such a policy even before it's implemented. Then we have the two big questions. What are the two big questions? First one, how do choices end up determining what, how, and for whom goods and services are produced? Can the choices that people make in the pursuit of their own self-interest also promote the broader social interest? So we have two important questions that summarize the scope of economics. How do choices end up determining what and how and for whom goods and services are produced? For whom we should produce goods and services, and how should we produce? Should we use capital or should we use labor or should we use land? And what should we do? What should we produce? Should we produce public goods or private goods? All of these determined by the scope of economics, and can the choices that people make in the pursuit of their self-interest also promote the broader social interest? We have your own self-interest based on your own decisions based on your benefits and costs. You give up some costs to have some benefits, and when we have you have the best decision, is that best decision promote the social interest or not? For the first question, what, how, and for whom, goods and services are the objects that people value and produce to satisfy human wants. And we have the difference between goods and services. Goods are tangible, goods are tangible, services are intangible. So goods are physical objects such as cell phones and automobiles. Services are tasks performed for people such as cell phone services and the auto repair service. So goods are tangible, services are intangible. Goods have inventory, service don't have inventory. And then we have the four factors of production. We have land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. For the first factor of production, land, and it's a gift of nature, gift of God, that we use to produce goods and services are called land, natural resources. So it's natural resources, and our land surface and water resources are renewable, and some of our mineral resources can be recycled. But the resources that we use to create energy are non-renewable. They can be used only once, like gasoline, gas, petroleum, and all of the energy, non-renewable energy that we use in the production process are renewable resources. So land earns rent. For labor, the work time and work effort that people devote to producing goods and services is called labor. The quality of labor depends on human capital, which is the knowledge and skill that people obtain from education, on the job training, and work experience. So labor earns wages and land earns rent. So the price of land is rent, and the payment for labor is wages or income, depends on where the labor work. Capital and capital are the tools, instruments, machines, buildings, and other constructions that businesses use to produce goods and services are called capital. So capital earns interest. For capital, it earns interest, and we have the fourth factor of production, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship earns profit, and entrepreneurship depends on the human resource that organize labor, land, and capital. Entrepreneurs come up with new ideas about what and how to produce, make business decisions, and bear the risks that arise from these decisions. So entrepreneurship is different from labor because entrepreneurship has higher skills, so he take profit. But labor has lower skills, he takes wages, and he has less risk than entrepreneurship. So we have the four factors of production, and we have the price of the four factors of production: for land, rent; for labor, wages; for capital, interest; and for entrepreneurship, profit. Making a rational choice and how to make a rational choice. Economists view the choices that people make as rational. Depends on the human being is rational, and he take his own decisions for his self-interest. A rational choice is one that compares costs and benefits and achieves the greatest benefits over cost for the person making the choice. Benefit is what you gain. The benefit of something is the gain or pleasure that it brings, and it's determined by preference, by what a person likes and dislikes, and the intensity of those feelings. Some benefits are large and easy to identify, such as the benefit that you get from being in school. A big piece of that benefit is the goods and services that you will be able to enjoy with the boost of your earning power when you graduate. All of these are benefits. Benefits that you will have when you give up some costs. So you have benefit of the gains and pleasure that you will take, and the earning power or your income will increase when you graduate. Economists measure benefit as the most that a person is willing to give up to get something. So a person is willing to give up something to get something. That something that he gets is a benefit. You are willing to give up a lot to be in a school, as you well know, being a student, you have time, efforts, and you have costs, transportation, and you have the opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is a very, very important concept we will have in the next sections. Opportunity cost, when you have some time and you study in that time, you can do anything in that time. So you choose studying instead of working, instead of playing, instead of watching football. All of these considered as opportunity costs. So you have some costs that you will give up when you are in school, and you have benefits when you graduate. Costs, the opportunity cost of something is the highest valued alternative that must be given up to get it. To make the idea of opportunity cost, think about your opportunity cost of being in school. When you are in school, you have time, efforts, transportation, and all of these considered as costs, and that you give up to have the benefits. Economists as policy advisor. Of course, economists has a very, very important role in economy, and politicians take economist point of view as advising. All the policy question on which economists provide advice involves the blend of positive and normative. And we take the difference between positive statement and normative statement. We said positive statement, it has some disagreement, but normative statement, we have agreement between all the people. Economics can't help with the normative part, the policy goal. But for a given goal, economics provides method of evaluating alternative, comparing marginal benefit and marginal cost, finding the solution that makes the best use of your available resource. Economics provides some answers to all of these questions about what, how, and for whom goods and services are produced. And we will have in next chapter more answers about all of these questions. If you have any questions, you can give it to me in the section or in the college. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you best of luck.